Hi, it's a pleasure. The next 25 minutes, I would like to talk about JavaScript test runners, what it actually takes, what they actually do, and, well, how I implemented Tropic. First off, I would just leave a few words for those who still enjoy manual testing. Like, it's probably one in the audience. So I think as a software engineer or as a developer, we should always aim to just automate everything. Like, it's super handy. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess, but in the end, it's just, it saves a lot of time. So no more manual testing. Instead, just move and go for automated testing. It has some benefits, like you don't have to spend too much boring time debugging your console. You get fast feedback. And you don't have to leave your favorite editor to see if your stuff actually works. Like, that's my favorite part. And also, if you have a lot, like your working process is related with pull requests, it's quite easy to spot if your colleagues have or just forgot about certain edge cases. You just need to read the test description, and you get quite a nice view what the software should actually do and what is expected to do. And you get no unexpected bug reports, because if there is no test, then it's an expected bug report, right? Cool. So said that, we now have a shared understanding why writing tests is quite important. So, and I would like to move on and talk about what's actually a test runner and what parts of a test runner can help you to write tests. So in that case, like, here we see already Tropic, but that also fits for all the other test runners. Like, usually a test runner has some kind of CLI. That's the thing you start your whole test suite with. In that case, it would be Tropic, the command to start the test runner. It could be Mocha, Avro, Chest, whatnot. And the second part is the files you would like to test. And with this wildcard, we actually select all files which have spec.js, like in the ending. The second part of a test runner is usually some kind of utility module, which provides you with some handy functions or methods you could use in your tests for creating spies or mocks, or in that case, a test function. Or in Mocker or in other flavors, it's called it. And that's, yeah. Okay. So let's move on and talk about Tropic Test Runner. Tropic Test Runner has certain features which are already supported. It has isolated test execution. We will come later on to that point. What does that actually mean? You can write asynchronous tests. You can use promisers and done callbacks, as you are familiar with or familiar from Mocker or other test runners. It has no global variables, so you do like explicit imports. You can actually transpile your source code if you need to and test the transpiled source. And it's super lightweight and has no additional dependencies. However, that's like a trade-off, because it has also certain features, and not all the features our test runners have. Oh, cool. So the first part, I would just start off with a basic example, how to use Tropic, and also show watch mode. There will be a second demo, which is more advanced. So first off, I'm just gonna go into that thing here. It's an empty directory, so I'm just gonna start with an npm init. Yes, yet, yeah. So that's command. As we saw before, we're just gonna write down now Tropic, and we're gonna name our files with something like .spec.js. And all the other stuff we don't need for now. Okay, so now we don't have just this package JSON. What we're going to need is Tropic, and we're going to install it as we do with all the other modules, and we're going to save that as a def dependency. Cool, that was fast. Now I'm going to write the first test spec, or let's name it test, because maybe we're going to write more than just one. Let's just showed I could use import, however, then I would need to transpile it. So for now, I'm just going to use the regular require to actually start off with to type. Okay. So for now, I also just gonna import now like the assertion library. I just gonna use the regular assertion library which ships with Node. And gonna start writing like with this test function. I can describe like this test function takes 2 arguments. It's like a regular it from Mocker or our like all the other. It's quite a familiar pattern. You will see also in other test runners or test helpers. So the first argument is some kind of description. I'm just gonna put here it works or I don't know. And the second argument is always a callback function where you then like actually put the assertion. And for now, I just gonna put like an assert true, so we know it works, and that's okay. And then I'm just gonna, oh no, I don't need that. Okay. And here I just gonna now start with npm test and the npm script we just defined before in the package JSON when we had all these questions to answer. Okay, cool. So we already wrote our first test with Tropic, and it already passed.
Can you ask that false?
Of course. I'm just going to start the watch mode first, so we don't have to switch terminal mode. And now just false, and yeah. Oh, did not work because I need another dash dash. Okay. Font is super, super big, so it's quite far to scroll up. Yeah, so far so good. So we probably also want to have another test or to see like that the watcher is still running. Yeah, well, we don't see the command line anymore, so it's still running. So I'm just gonna add another one, and that one is like, I don't know, it works as well. Or in that case, it doesn't work because true. And I'm just gonna make that the other one as well. Now I do true because then the assertion is too big for that one. Okay. That was it. That was still quite easy. What else does Tropic come with? Like in other test runners, you would like to have just one test executed when you are focusing to implement some certain features. So, okay. Also included in Tropic, and yeah. Well, that was the basic example. I just wanted to show off that it's not any other interface than Mocker or our or all the others offer. So let's just go back to the presentation. Okay, so just before I mentioned that Tropic has isolated test execution. What does it actually mean? Like in an ideal world, each test would be atomic, and also no test should affect any other test, which means that if you define some global variable, it should under no circumstances alter the test results. However, in JavaScript, it's not that easy because we have all these closure variables, and it's not really possible to achieve isolated test execution. But we could have something like isolated test file execution. And that's actually how Tropic acts with isolated code execution. And it's even that strict that each test file is executed in a separate process, which means that the CLI you start off with the npm test or the Tropic and the files you actually want to test are like orchestrated by the CLI. So the CLI starts according to your CPU cores, the amount of child processes which are possible to handle in some kind of performance way, and will spawn like when the others are finished, new ones, or just listens to all the current process and the current state of all the iterations. So what I just described could be visualized like that. So we have the command line interface, which spawns like all the child processes, and in that case we have like 4 test files which are named 1, 2, 3, Okay, that's interesting. And those child processes, they actually get from the command line 2 additional standard input streams, and they gonna like stream their results back to the command line interface, which is then passed and logged with the reporter to the console. Since all these processes are executed concurrently, in a concurrent way, the logs may vary from execution to execution. So it's not really deterministic that the first test is executed before the second. It could be the other way around. And also in the left corner, there is also the watcher, which notifies the CLI about file changes. And if there is a file change, like in the last 50 milliseconds, there's some certain limit, the CLI will actually just interrupt the current iteration and start over. Like I think we saw that before when there was this blue bar which says like there was a file change and then I was stopping and starting again. But we can have a look afterwards again. Now you might wonder how actually the transpilation works with ES6 and up features. Like in many ways, usually it's not really necessary to transpile your source, since Node actually supports all the ES6 features. You would need to test your files. However, if you use import-export, there is no way currently, as we had before in the doc just before, you would need to transpile your whole source just to have this import-export. And in that case, Tropic actually supports an option which is called Tropic Require. It's also quite similar to the Mocker option, which is also called Require or Compile. So what that option does, it takes an argument or like an array of arguments where you can define different modules or JavaScript files which get required just before the test execution in each child process. So if you pass like with Tropic Require, like for instance, Bubble, then Bubble will be injected in each child process just before the test executes, and Bubble will take care of the transpilation on the fly. And for that, Bubble uses the require extensions, which does exactly just that job. You can think of it like monkey patching the require, which is not really true, but it's like a hook which Node.js provides. So each file with a certain extension gets transpiled when it's loaded via Node. Okay, so that means that Tropical, no, it's not Tropical. It's Tropic supports ES6, but it does not enable ES6 features. Like there are some test runners like Ava, for instance, which already enables you to write ES6, but there is like one downside, that it actually has like Bubble and a lot of other Bubble presets as a dependency. As I just described, you could use Bubble, and using the require option, like you can see down there, it will load it automatically. However, just move on to the second demo, where I will show you how you could test your React components with Enzyme and Tropic, and even using Bubble. So now I have to type even more. Let's see how that will work out. I would just suggest that we're going to continue on that one. And the test run is still running. Okay, I'm just going to install even more dependencies because now I'm going to need more. Okay. So first off, let's just change the test with the require to an import. So we would need Bubble for that. For now, I'm just going to do it like that and import from. Okay, so that one. Let's just change that one for now. So now it fails, unexpected token import. So let's use Bubble to help us out with that. And we're also going to use the Bubble preset and environment. During we wait for the installation, we could actually, or just wait for it. But we would also need to update our package JSON to make use of the require option we just talked about before. So it's easy like that, and then bubble register. And one thing I also wrote down in the slides we just jumped off before is that we will also need to have some kind of bubble RC. Otherwise, we don't really have a unified option. So, okay. Nope. Okay, good enough. Okay, so now we have this bubble RC file, which has this environment thing. And let's see if our test already executes. 0 passing. Okay, that's bad. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna need to start our test runner again because we just added the require option. Ah, cool. It already works. So as we can see here, we have now this require register thing, and yeah, it transpiles our source on the fly. Okay, so next one, I'm gonna change that one as well. Okay. Okay, here you can see that there was a file change. Don't be too confused by that one. That's a temporary file. I currently just log all of them. Okay. So what's next? So we managed to now have the bubble register working. I promised you that we're gonna test our React components, which we currently not have, but we're gonna write one. So I would just like to install now Enzyme. Maybe some of you are already familiar with Enzyme. It's an open source project there from Airbnb, where you can, like, they offer a lot of helper functions to render your component in a virtual DOM, and you can, check if the DOM renders as expected, or even if buttons are clicked. Like, you can register like on-click events and check, like, with a spy if the function is called with the right parameters. So far, so good. However, we will also need some more dependencies because we're gonna write some React inside of our test file, and for that, I'm gonna install now React, React DOM, and React Test Runner. I'm not gonna put save dev now. And also, like, the bubble preset React. Otherwise, we're gonna have later on another issue. Cool. So done that. Okay, still executing our test. So now we can continue with our. Okay, let's go to the Enzyme documentation because actually I don't do that often. It's a lot of documentation, and it's also a really good read if you enjoy or are interested in start testing your React components. Okay, just gonna copy all of that now. Oh fuck, the font size is too big. Okay, I'm just gonna change that now. Or maybe not. Command. Yeah, but I don't think it works in Vim. Okay, cool. Better. Thank you. I'll also do that here. Okay. So what did we just paste here? So we're not gonna use chai for now. Sorry. Like, I think it's a good test helper, but we're not gonna use that for now. So we're gonna have React here. We have, that didn't change. Okay, cool. And we don't have this file, which is called foo. So for now, like, okay, it's already complaining for having this foo here. Guess it's probably not using the right bubble preset. But also gonna remove that line because we don't have that. We don't have a describe block, and we don't need those files, those tests anymore. Okay. What's the actual issue now? So it says foo. Of course, because we didn't add the React preset to our bubble RC. And I think that's okay. I hope. It is not defined. Okay, super. Because I named it here test, and that's okay. We can name it doesn't matter. Cool. So now we have two failing tests. Let's see how we're gonna fix those. As you can see, there is already an actual component, but it's not defined yet. It's also the reference arrow we have on the right side. It says foo is not defined. So for now, we're just gonna have here like a component, super simple one, just to see that it actually works. And I just used the round brackets, so I don't have this return, don't wonder. Okay. And here I just gonna put now unique, because that's our second test, but we're gonna have a look at that later. Okay, so next issue, expect is not defined. That's okay. I just removed chai before, sorry. Yeah. But it's okay, we're gonna, just for now, you don't have to do it on your own, of course. You can use whatever assertion library you like to use. And I also don't have this nice, or this chaining chai actually provides us. So I just gonna put it here, a bit shorter. And also gonna rename that one here. And we don't have this to contain, so I also just gonna delete and have like an includes, which I just learned about today that it actually exists. So includes returns us a Boolean. It's true or false. You can think of it as index off. It's just a Boolean rather than having a -1. I don't know when that one got included into JavaScript. Okay. Next off. Okay, we have one passing test. Like the second one is already passing because our component has now this unique. And for now, I'm just gonna make it fail by removing the I. Okay, so now we have, okay, two failing tests, nice. So here we can see like renders the title. Well, it's not a title in our component, but it's still a valid test case. And now it returns false instead of true. But we can undo that and it will pass again. And as you can see, like in the first test, in the description, it says renders free.foo bars. And as far as I can tell, like the wrapper does look for a class which is foo bar. And we're gonna achieve that by just adding them. Yeah, just 3 of them, but for now, let's see what the result will be even. We're gonna have like foo bar. So now I would expect, yeah, true, thank you. Okay, why is it already working? Because we have this regular assert, and that one just checks the first argument, and there is no second argument. So I would just put an equal here. Was not paying too much attention when we just removed the chai syntax. Oh. Equal. Okay. Let's see. Now I would expect, okay, got 1, but actually it should be free. So let's just add that, and okay. Now I expect this to work. Cool. So we just tested our React component with Enzyme, and I think it did work quite well. Next off, that was live demo 2. There's no more live demo, sorry. Thank you. For me, it was really a pleasure to introduce Tropic to you. I would like to get some feedback, and maybe some of you got inspired. Just check it out. It's open source on GitHub. I have some planned features, and I would like to receive maybe priorities, like from you guys. What features are you using? And yeah, I would also appreciate if you just leave a star on GitHub. Like, yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
This looks actually it looks awesome, but I wonder about the why. Can you point out the benefits over Karma and Mocha using Tropic?
Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting question. Like, I also wondered why. It all started that I really got curious how all the dev runners are implemented. And when I look at my project, like all of them have like the dependency, the dependency to Mocha or Avar or the others. And I just got interested. So I started like, what does it take to write a synchronous test runner? Like that's the basic example. And then I got even more curious and I started to write an async test runner. And in the end, I even provided like a FAQ because I was expecting the question. So all the other test runners, like they have so much features I never actually used. And that's also like why I continued on that, because I saw that it doesn't take too much to have a working test runner, even though like if I have just a certain amount of features, but that's the features I actually need. And as I just said, on all my projects, they are usually quite small or end up with production code with about 20K. And I was just wondering, is it really necessary to have like a test runner, which takes 2 megabytes or even more if you use a more advanced test runner as a dependency? Like, that's just was my motivation. But I'm not saying, hey, your test runner is too big, because it's a dev dependency and you should usually not care, especially if you like to use all these features. Like other test runners have snapshot testing and all the, I don't know, a lot of stuff. And you probably, Tropic has some, I don't know, issues on Windows. I never tried that, but hopefully we will receive someday some feedback, and then it will work out that thing as well. And there is another slide. Like I actually got curious how the other test runners are like taking up all my space and all my stuff, and I ended up creating a directory and smaller projects with them, and it's really like that JS really blows them all. But as I just said, just Avar and all these test runners, they really fit other use cases. Like in Avar, for example, it ships with your bubble preset and transpiles your thing on the fly for you. However, as I also said, it's not really necessary because your node supports all the features except import-export. So why would I need a test runner which ships with all the stuff I don't use? Doesn't mean that other people use it. But it's also not really fair, because if you use Tropic with bubble register, it adds also 17 megabytes. So be aware of that. But as yeah, okay.
May I ask another question? What kind of projects do you work on? That you decide to build your own test runner?
It's like in my previous job, I worked a lot full stack JavaScript, and currently I'm working at a client, and it's also basically just JavaScript. I work on JavaScript projects with some UI, but not too much, and that's why I don't know. Yeah, that's a project I work on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, the following then, that's actually important.
As you saw, yeah, Okay, so the question was, how is performance with Tropic? I think it's quite good. I ported some bigger projects with, let's say, 20 or 30 or up to 50 test files. It works fine. There are some use cases where spawning all these processes slows down, because when your watcher runs or spawns all these child processes, sometimes it seems like the garbage collection, or like starting. It's just sometimes it's slow. It's kind of unpredictable. But I also have in mind that I'm gonna introduce a second execution mode, which will not use separate processes. But that's like it could be like, I don't know, an option which you pass. It's fast, and it will be one process which is executing all the test files, but still has some isolated test execution with an if around each test or test file. But that's the downside. You would have a different approach of isolated test execution, because then it's no longer a not shared global object. But yeah.
So you stated that you don't really want to use a describe block, but so it's the same thing as Ava does. But I really like describe block.
Yeah.
I don't really see this as a thing which is not really.
It's definitely.
That's a good point, but on the other hand, you always write. You also write that there is a easy adaptation thing. So what's your personal opinion on describe blocks?
My personal opinion about describe blocks is that I don't use them, but it's okay. Yeah, I don't like to write integration tests. I guess if you look at Tropic, there are a lot of integration tests actually, like to test the whole CLI and when you spawn the process. But therefore, I don't really use a describe block. However, I use helper functions, but those are called explicit in the test file in the first line. But yeah, I see that there is a need for a suite or a describe block, and I actually planned to have it for the day, but was not finished. But I guess it's not too much work to introduce it, and if you really like it, I would be happy to receive a pull request. Yeah.
Okay, maybe another question for today. Did you write your Tropic test in Tropic?
Not yet.
So we just run a test your Tropic.
Yeah, that one almost made it on the FAQ slide. It all started with this sync test runner I told you about, like when I got curious, and it just evolved. So in Tropic, when we go to the GitHub page, there is a folder which is util, and there is actually the test runner, but it's not a runner because it's just a simple try catch block. Because all assertion or an expect does, it's just throws an error, and you're just gonna catch it and log it. In the most simple use case, if you have a synchronous job. On the other hand, if you have that's the tricky part. So that's actually what I use to test Tropic, just this try catch. But it's big enough. But since the CLI actually is asynchronous, there's a need to spawn my CLI synchronously, block the whole test file till the whole test execution is over, and then I'm gonna regex on the output of the whole process. But yeah, it's kind of slow, but it doesn't take too long because, yeah, if you like to, I don't know if there's time, I can show you. Okay.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Okay.
Thank you very much, David.